welcome to Knitting on the Farm podcast. This is episode 12 and it is Saturday the 3rd of October 2020. My name is Angela and I'm coming to you from County Down in Northern Ireland. I'm married to a dairy farmer, Andrew. We have 3 children that are all married and have blessed us with 4 grandchildren, and our children also married into farming life as well. I've had quite a few new subscribers, so I thought I just would give a wee introduction and keep you all up to date. I use this channel on YouTube just to share my crafting life and also just to share some life that's on the farm as well, things that are going on. And sometimes what goes on the farm's pretty mundane, but other times there's some exciting things and I like to share them as well. So I will start just by giving a huge thank you to so many new subscribers to the podcast. I appreciate everyone and I love the comments that you leave down below, and I hope at this stage I've replied to them all. Sometimes comments from older podcasts don't just come up on my phone, they only come up on my main PC, and I need to check it to make sure that there's none outlying there. If there is, I will make sure and have them reply to after I record. So I will just give you a wee rundown of how the podcast is going to roll today. I'm going to do the introduction and answer one of the questions that was on our Ravelry group. I'm going to share our make along with you, keep you up to date on that, and then I'm going to share some things that have just come off the needles. And of course what comes off, there always has to be something go back onto the needles, so I will show you that. And then I have a little section on some sewing that I have done. If you've watched some of the other podcasts, you will know that I treated myself to a new sewing machine and I've been trying out a couple of things on it. So let's get started. I don't want to keep you too long today. So places then that you can find me, I have them all down below in the wee drop down bar. There's a wee arrow, and if you hit it, it'll give you all the details of things that I talk about today. And it'll also give you the links to the places that you can find me so that you can get the correct spelling. I know someone said that they were having trouble finding me, so that should help you. And if you follow me on Instagram, then if you go into my bio, there's links to everything over there, to the YouTube channel, to the make along, and other things that are going on. I also did want to say a huge thank you to anyone that has bought me a coffee, so to speak. I have the link for it down below, and it's also on my Instagram profile, but it's not something I've ever mentioned because I wouldn't want anyone to think that they needed to subscribe financially to the podcast, because that is not needed at all. But it's there, and really any money that comes into that account I use to put towards prizes or postage of items that are going out in the podcast, and I can assure you that it's not used for anything else. So anyone that has done that so far, thank you very much. And please don't feel that it is something that you have to do, because it's not, and I don't want to mention it. I thought that was someone coming in, but it's Lola coming down, because this is about take 7 of my introduction. Okay, let's get started then with Ravelry. We have a make-along running across in Ravelry, and I say we because it's co-hosted with Lindsay from Stitch Create Love, and it is the Christmas Gifts Make-Along 2020. And the idea behind it was to make sure that we would all start our Christmas crafts and gifts early, that we would have them ready for Christmas. We wouldn't be giving that family member a sock without a toe, or a jumper without an arm, or a hat without a pom-pom. So my section is the knitting and crochet section, where you can enter all those type of garments or items. There's a chatter thread, and there's also a finished object thread. So the finished object thread is closed to leaving any chatter, just to make it easier to draw some winners. And then if you have any sewing or English paper piecing, tapestry, cross stitch, anything, dressmaking, anything that you do with a needle and thread or a sewing machine, you can enter that across in Lindsay's Ravelry group, and the details for that are all down below. And the threads are open until the 25th of November, and after that then we'll draw some prize winners and hopefully get prizes out before Christmas. It really will depend just on the world situation at the moment. Postage within mainland UK is quite good, but I know sending items across to other parts of the world, things can be quite slow, and I really wouldn't want anything to get lost. So it'll all depend really on the terrible COVID situation that we're in at the moment. So if we don't post before Christmas, and it's safer to do so after Christmas, I'm sure you'll understand that. So that is the make along that's going on over on our Ravelry groups. Then on Instagram, this is October, and a lot of the podcasters are doing vlogtobers, where people record 5 or 10 minutes of their daily life for each day of the month of October. I'm not taking part this year, just because basically I don't have probably a lot of daily content that wouldn't be boring for me to share with you. And I thought I will either podcast every week for October and cover my daily life that way, and I maybe do it with a little bit more footage of things that are happening rather than a traditional podcast, but don't hold me to that. So over on Instagram, I decided it's to also take part in Socktober. I'm not sure who started that, but I have started a hashtag which is KF Socktober 2020, and that's really for Knitting on the Farm, and I'm running it as a competition on Instagram. So there'll be prizes, and I just haven't done this for Instagram, and I'm aware that some people don't follow on Instagram. So if you send me a direct email with a finished pair of socks that have been knit during the month of October, and you put the hashtag KF Socktober 2020 in the subject bar on the email, I'll include that in the competition, or in the giveaway rather, and that will maybe make it fair. But if you are on Instagram, it would be great just if you entered that way and just use the direct email for those folk that don't follow on Instagram. It'll leave it much simpler. And actually I have said that, and I haven't even thought about how that works in drawing a winner, but I'll work it out somehow. So if you're on Instagram, enter with that hashtag as much as possible. If you're not, just use the email option. But anything that's down below with the hashtag on YouTube, I won't be taking it into account if that's okay. This brain here only can handle so much at the one time. So that's another make along that's going on. Then on Ravelry, we had a section I opened which was ask a question, and there was a couple of questions. One I missed answering last podcast because I didn't have the garment with me. So I have it with me today, and I'll tell you a wee bit about it quickly. The question was from Marie of Crazy Stitches on Ravelry, and she asked what was my first knitting project and if it holds any special memories. And I would say, like so many people, your first knitting project, if you've got older, is long since gone. but I can tell you mine was a multicolored scarf. It was about 30 stitches wide in garter stitch, and my nana taught me to knit. The 30 stitches quite often went to maybe 20, and on a good row they maybe went to 35, and I remember my nana patiently having to frog it back and restart it and show me again how to do it, and it just went on and on and on. So I don't have that project, but I do remember knitting it, and I am so thankful that she actually taught me to knit, because it has now given me a craft in my adult life that I enjoy so much. But when I started to sort of knit serious garments, I knit a lot for the children when they were small, but the one that I want to show you is a sweater that I knit for my husband, and this was knit about 25 maybe years ago. And I used to, on a Saturday evening when the children went to youth club and my husband was a leader in the youth club on a Saturday evening, I would have went down to my mother-in-law's and we would have sat and knit. And this is the garment that I knit over the youth club period. It took me quite a length of time, I can't remember how long, but it was a sweater for my husband. I'll move back and maybe you'll see it a wee bit better. So that's it. It's a traditional ARAN sweater. It's made up of many different pattern designs, and it works across to a central traditional Celtic type cable, and then you move into the cable forward, cable back, blueberry stitch, and then the moss stitch, and it works right down the sleeve, as well. It's hard to just talk behind it without muffling, but it was knit in Stylecraft ARAN, which was 80% acrylic and 20% wool. I didn't know anything about indie dyeing then, and with the children being small I probably couldn't have afforded to buy it anyway, but I think for the length of time this jumper has been on the go, it has lasted really well. So it just goes to show it's extremely heavy and warm, and the weather here doesn't always warrant a heavy jumper, so I suppose it hasn't got an extreme amount of wear. But that is one of my many pride and joys that has come off the needle. I'll try and get Andrew to put it on and get a few photographs and let you see it better. But I think there's probably about, I think there was maybe about 800 grams in it, so it was quite a knit. It was knit in sections, as in the front, the back, the sleeves, etc., and then sewn together. And my mum-in-law did a lot of the sewing together, because at that stage I wasn't really very good at it, so she finished it off beautifully. And that is one of the garments that has a lot of memories for me. So thank you, Marie, for that question. So let's get to off the needles. The first object that I'm going to show you was on my last podcast, so I have talked about it, and I'll not talk about it too long. But these are Andrew's socks that I was knitting. Ellie from Craft House Magic kindly gifted me the yarn, and we have two. It is ice yarns, and it didn't have a name. It is their super sock, and it's 75 super wash wool and 25% polyamide, and it comes 400 meters per 100 grams, and that's just how it turns out. So I have been talking to Ellie, and I wanted to know wanted something strong and durable for Andrew for his welly boots, and she had this and she gave it to me to try. So I got them finished. I just did the traditional top down, the 25 row 1 by 1 through the back of the loop cuff, and the pattern isn't really anything, I don't think it is even of a pattern, but it was just a 5 row pattern repeat, and I won't just say what it is in case I've taken it from a pattern that I have, but basically it's only the 5th row that really changed. So I did the heel flap and gusset, and then just the traditional semi-round toe. So these have been blocked, and I want to give them to Andrew, so another good reason to podcast. So that is the ice socks. She gave me a full ball and what was left obviously from a pair of socks she has knit, and I just needed to pop into the full ball of wool. So there's definitely another pair of socks there, no problems. I just need to get in the mood to knit another pair of socks in the slightly sturdier and slightly harder wool, but it did soften down with blocking, but you would notice it just that wee bit on your hands, that wee bit harder to work with. So that's my first finished object. That is Andrew's socks. The next finished object then is behind me, and gosh am I glad to get this off the needles. It has been going now. I meant to look up, I started it on the 15th of July and I didn't finish it until the 25th of September, but I did knit lots of things in between, but I should have really worked on it and give it more effort to get it finished. But this is the ROBERVAL cardigan. It's a free pattern and it was on the BISCOTTE yarns website. There's not really a very good photograph of the actual cardigan, but it was a really easy knit, and there was plenty of interest in it, sort of to keep you going. The only thing that was repetitive, like I think all knitters find, is the sleeves, and even at that it wasn't too bad because you hadn't very much to knit after you were concentrating on the decreases. So I knitted on in Debbie BLISS RIALTO TK. It is 100% wool, extra fine merino, a superwash. I think the colour was actually called Sea Splash when I looked at online, but the colour is 23081. And I purchased 11 balls. They're 50 grams, which was 105 meters. And the pattern actually used, I've started to weigh just to see how much the patterns are using in yarn in comparison to what the actual pattern says, and it used 416 grams. So that was I thought that was quite good. It was a lovely yarn to knit with. I always like Debbie Bliss yarns. They're really soft, and I like the stitch definition in them. So I will show you the cardigan. It's not for me, so it doesn't actually fit me to put it on, but I will move back and bring the mannequin in to let you see it. And I think the best way is to get some photographs when Hannah fits it and let you see it that way, but this will give you a wee idea. Okay, so it is just a buttonless front. There is some short row shaping here to give you a nice mini shawl collar here. It's not too deep, but it's just nice in round the back of your neck. Sorry, that line is from the t-shirt that's underneath it. As you can see, The stitch definition is really nice, and I haven't blocked this yet, so it'll be even better when it's blocked. It's knit from the top down and then separated for the sleeves. There are 3 pattern sections then in the middle. The first, if I can show you, the first, I think it's better maybe on the mannequin. The first pattern section is just a basket weave. Here, which is really nice. The second section then is a diamond, and then it continues down with the basket weave, and then it has a 2x2. It has about 6 inches of just stocking stitch, and then it has a 2x2 ribbing on the bottom. I am really so pleased with it. The sleeves are just plain. What I didn't do, there was 2 things. I just did a 1x1 rib on the sleeve. Didn't intend to do that. And the second thing was I didn't change to a smaller needle for the cast off, because I know Hannah will want to wear it turned back, and I think when it's turned back it'll not be too tight. So yeah, that's the ROBERVAL cardigan. I'm really pleased with it. I can't wait to see what it's like when it blocks out. I'm hoping I lifted enough stitches and did the German short rows okay. I just see it a wee bit here on camera, but it should block out no problem. I'm hoping. So yeah, I'm really glad to get that off the needles, because as you know, I wanted to get a sweater onto the needles for myself. So that's the ROBERVAL cardigan. It is by Andrea Yetman. I think I said it was from BISCOTTE Yarns website, and it was a really nice cardigan. I know a lot of people complained that the pattern didn't work properly, but I had no problems with it at all. I did say before there's a slight stitch change from one pattern to the other, but when you do what the pattern says, it worked fine. So that is the socks and the cardigan, and then my final thing is called a small gift cowl, and it is by Melanie Rice, and it is blocked and all ready to go into the Christmas basket. If you can see anything but my, oh Angela, fiddles. It's a really simple, just like a brick type pattern with some moss stitch in between, and it's so soft. It blocked beautifully. It really did finish it. I knit this. This is the pattern. It was a free pattern. Shadow. Yeah, I knit this in some wool that was gifted to me from an Instagram friend. Whoops, Susie's moving around in the background. It was Little Stone Cottage yarns. Makes it worse. Can you see? That's better. And it is called Blue Lagoon, and it was 75/25 fingering weight. The pattern called for DK, so I held it together with the drops, Brushed Alpaca Silk, which I talked about when I knit the Lindsay's cowl, Dance Like No One's Watching, and it is 25 grams, which was 140 meters, 153 yards, and it is 77% alpaca and 23% silk. I love it both for its price and also for knitting with it. It's lovely. There's no itch with it, and you know, it really makes a good price point for knitting a Christmas gift. I used the Light Lavender Colourway in the alpaca, and I think it really did a good job. See if I can just find how much I used. I can find the pattern, because I know I did. Yes, the main yarn I used, it took 46 grams, and that was the yarn on the skein. So you can see it didn't make a big change to the colorway. You know, sometimes you can get a huge difference, but it just gave it a nice, matched it in very well, I thought. So it used 46 grams of the main colorway. So I mean, easily you can take a row or two off in the center pieces and get another cowl out of that. And I have enough. It used 38 grams of the alpaca, but I had bought 50. I bought 75. So again, I'll have enough out of that to knit another cowl if I wanted to, which might happen, we'll see. I used the 3.75mm needles, and as I say, it was a DK pattern, and it worked out fine. There was a lovely tip on the bottom of the pattern, but I'm sure all you knitters out there know that anyway, and it was how to block it. And rather than blocking it flat and sort of getting those two edges down the side, you rolled up some towels to the size that you needed, and when you made the towels in a circle, then you put your cowl out round them and you pinned it to the towels, and that was how you blocked it. And it was such a brilliant idea. I don't know why I never had thought of it, but it meant there's absolutely no lines in it whatsoever, and I think that's really nice. I'll put it on just to let you see it. Yeah, so it's really nice. I think it's for my mum, and she likes a longer cowl that she'll sort of wear it. She'll wear it like that, and it'll keep her warm. And I know she'll not have an allergy till the alpaca. Okay, let's go then to some things that are on the needles. Okay, the first thing then that I have on the needles is the Flight of the BumbleBee Socks by Lindsay of Stitch Create Love. These socks, this pattern is fantastic. It is written for the very beginner sock knitter. It has a very simple pattern which would help you progress even from a vanilla sock into a pattern sock, and it's also a real joy to knit if you are a seasoned sock knitter. So I'm just going to find the photo here to show you. I have just printed it actually in black and white, but that's it there. So the unique thing about this pattern, I think, is it is written for toe up or top down. So that is pretty amazing, to get a pattern that works both ways. And I think that's a fantastic idea, and it was a great thing for Lindsay to actually do and put into the one pattern. So the yarn that I'm knitting these in is by Elderflower Stitches again. Susie. I think I showed this the last time, that it was an incoming goodie, and it is called The First Fallen Leaves. It's a high twist yarn, 4-ply, 75 superwash merino and 25% nylon, and it's 425 meters per 100 grams, hand wash. So this is the yarn. I don't think I maybe had it wound up the last day. There's some really subtle specks in it which come up beautifully in the actual knitting. So this is sock 1 and I'm just past the heel. This is a new heel for me. It's the German short row. I'm 99% of the time I'm always heel flap and gusset, and it took me 2 tries to get this right. The first one was fine, but it just didn't please me tension wise on one side, so I frogged it back and repeated it. So I'm now a few rows past. And as you can see, the pattern, it's just a simple little pattern, but most certainly in real life does look like the little bumblebees. And you can see the yarn is lovely. It's so subtle. The back of the sock's just plain stockinette, which I love. And you can see the colours coming through. The heel's done, and I'm started now this way on the toe. I was going to knit it all plain, and then I remembered I had the 4th mini from the Dance Like No One's Watching cowl that was also from Susie of Elderflower Stitches. So I did my usual 3 or 4 rows at the top in the subtle pink, which I think matches really well. And I'm going to do the toe in it also. I'm not sure whether you can just, yeah, you can see there sort of the difference in the colour. But the actual sock yarn, it has like a blush to it rather than just plain cream. It has that sort of nice blush effect. And then if you see the 2 colours together, I actually thought it was a brighter orange, but when you see the 2 together, the little speck here and the top, it matches lovely. I'm very pleased with it. So I'll be fit to motor on with it and past the heel, and I know the next sock it'll be a doddle, as they say, because I know where I'm going with the heel now. So that's one of the things then that's on the needles, and I'm test knitting that, and it needs to be finished now in a week or 10 days time, I think. Okay, so watch out for that pattern coming. It'll not be long, and I think there's even another sock pattern in progress at the minute with Lindsay. So she's really enjoying the pattern knitting, and she's enjoying the whole process. And they are lovely patterns. They're well worth a purchase. So then I have a half finished object. Just before Lindsay's pattern came out, I actually had about 48 hours where I had nothing on the needles, so I just had to cast something on. I think it was maybe last weekend. So I cast on the Midsummer Blossom socks. I've knit these before, and I knit the ankle version, and I thought then, or no, rather I knit the ankle version, and I thought I would knit a pair of shorties just for my daughter-in-law, because she likes them in her trainers. So I'll turn it that way, it's easier to hold. So this is the Midsummer Blossom socks. I love the pattern. It's so easy. It's 8 rows, and it gives a lovely lattice effect. Maybe not showing up so well in this yarn. I did see it on the Instagram in a plain cream, and it was beautiful. So I might actually knit it in the yarn that's left over from the Flight of the BumbleBee Socks. I am using some yarn that I bought in a D-stash. Okay, there are some speckles in it. See if they're showing. You can just, yeah, you can see that it's some lovely silvers, Selena. This yarn was from a girl, Melissa from HoneyBee Knits, and she's not dyeing anymore. She did have lots on D-stash. I don't know whether there's still any or not, but it's HoneyBee Knits, and it was, colourway was Clara, Crack Your Nuts, and it's 438 yards per 100 grams, and it's 75 superwash merino, 20 nylon and 5 stellina. There was a mini with it that I have used for something else somewhere along the lines, so I just knit it in a plain colourway. And you just go straight from the band right into the heel, and I just did the slip stitch heel. I didn't do the eye of partridge. So that's the first one done, and I'll get the other one cast on now very shortly. So that is 2 projects on the needles. Bang. And they're both socks. So the other project I am really excited about. I am so glad to be able to get it on the needles, and it is a sweater for myself. This I purchased the yarn for in 2019 at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I swatched for it when I came home, and then life just got in the way and I didn't start it. So I thought I would start it now for myself. I know I have the Mano sweater that I talked about in another podcast, but I thought it's a real winter sweater, and the weight of this one here is slightly lighter, and it would be good for the autumn time or the earlier part of winter. So it's called the Fern and Feather sweater, and it is by Jennifer Steingas, who everybody knows. Again, it's just in black and white. But it's a beautiful pattern. I'm just working my way through the chart. A couple of things with this. I'll tell you the wool that I'm using first. It is Wensleydale long wool, which is 100% pure new wool. It's ARAN weight, and it's 160 meters or 174 yards per 100 grams. And the colorways that I'm using are 2 colorways. I'll show you them now. It's a green and a lighter green. The main color is 124 and the lighter color is 106, but I don't think those names for them, so I'll show you them. Okay, first things first. I cast this sweater on, and on Thursday evening when we were in our Zoom group, I was showing it to the girls, and I've now taken this part off the needles, but I kept it just to show it to you. You can see it's just a 2-row roll collar or roll neck, and when the neck rolled, you can see the floats right round it up here at the top. I thought maybe it was my tension with the floats, but I don't think it is, because I couldn't do them really any tighter. It's at the top there. I think you can see it. So I was speaking to the girls, and Nikki Winterton of Sheep and Cheerful podcast, in all her words of wisdom, said check Ravelry to see if there's any notes. I said, oh, I have checked Ravelry the last time, but I never thought, gosh, there could be a new comment on Ravelry, and you never know, they might have the answer. So Nikki got her phone out and she says, oh, here is the answer. And the answer was by someone, instead of doing the 2 rows knit, do the 2 rows purl. And as you can see, this is the bottom down here now, so don't worry about that. As you can see, across the top, no floats. So Nikki is my little mother hen, and full of words of wisdom, Nikki, thank you. because I wasn't happy at all, and I was very tempted to just go on with it, and I knew it wasn't going to be right. And the cable is about 40, or not the cable, the colour work's about 40 rows, and I just knew every row I would do it wouldn't please me, and it was going to be left sitting there. So I think I have about 7 rows done. I just restarted it last night. So that's the 2 colourways. It's a green, like an evergreen, and like a yellowy green, and I really like the colours. It's not a colour I would wear. I'm usually a navy and black person, but yeah, I really like them. Not a big contrast, but just suits my taste, I think. So I'm enjoying it in that. I'm enjoying doing the wee bit of colour work, and I'm looking forward to trudging along with that. And I have learned to purl the 2 rows instead of knit them, and to always check on Ravelry again, because there might be some new comments from the last time I checked. Duh. Okay, that's all the knitting that's on the go at the minute. I don't really have any future plans, so I don't know what I'm going to cast on after my socks. I'll have to have a wee think and just see what's out there. Who knows, I might even cast on my other sweater. I don't know, but if you know me, there'll always be a pair of socks on the needles. So the next wee section then, just to wrap up quickly, is some sewing that I did, and it's not very much. First of all, a bunny had to come to Nana's hospital. This little bunny was made by my dear friend Diane from Elm Tree Yarns, and it gets carried around by the one arm by my granddaughter continually. So the arm had come off, and Nana was sent home with the bunny to make it all better. So I sewed it and repaired the dress, so it's ready to be posted back to my granddaughter, because here in Northern Ireland at the minute you're not allowed to visit anyone anywhere indoors unless you're within their bubble, and we aren't. Andrea and I aren't in their bubble. Her mum-in-law, my daughter's mum-in-law, and family are in Claire's bubble, so this has to go in the post. So that was I was only a wee bit of hand sewing. That's an awful lot of talk about a few stitches, isn't it? The other thing then was, I think I said maybe in one other podcast, can't remember, was that our grandchildren were wondering why Mummy and Daddy wears a mask to keep safe and they don't. So I said I could make them a mask and they could wear it when they would be out and about if it helped them to feel safe. So many years ago I would have done craft fairs and I did some sewing for them, and I had these fabrics left and I just thought I would use them up. So I made my granddaughter this little mask with some dogs on it, some sheep dogs. I need to cut my threads there. And there's no nose wire or anything in it, because I just don't want it to be too tight. It is reversible if you want it to, I suppose, just so that you know the difference between the inside and out. And then I got some nice soft cord and little adjusters as well for the cord on their ears. So that's for my little granddaughter. And then for my grandson, I surprisingly had some cow fabric in stock. How surprising would that be? So I made him a little cow one, and the inside of it is just some pebbles and grass. Cut down on the fading, and at least they'll know what way they're wearing them. So then I said, would Mummy like one? And our granddaughter said, oh yes, but my mummy has a cow one and my mummy has a sheep one. I said, that's okay, we'll make mummy a piggy one. So again, I had some piggy fabric in stock, so I made the piggy one, and the inside of it is just the stone wool again. And this one here, I have the little nose wire in it. I actually bought them. They are self-adhesive strips that you can put in, and then when I was top stitching out round, I just sewed at the side here, just in case they would move. But they really are a good fitting mask. It's off YouTube, and you get the template as well. So, and they come up really well under the bridge of your nose. So if you're wearing glasses, your glasses sit on top of them, and you do feel well protected in them. And I've made them here, they sort of come down a little here under your chin. So yeah, they're good. Good fitting mask. I have some of them myself. So that's the things that I've been sewing, and I think that's really it. And I've almost talked for an hour. Where does the time go? What do I ramble about? I just don't know. Okay, so I haven't done anything to my cross stitch. It is just sitting there behind Susie, and I haven't done another stitch to it. Ellie from Craft House Magic actually has a routine of 20 minutes a day. I don't know whether I said this in one other podcast, and I think that's going to be the way to go, to just make sure that you do a certain amount every day at the beginning of the day, that you have it done, and then you can move on to other things. So that might be a discipline that I need to introduce to be able to get my cross stitch done. So yeah, I have nothing incoming goodies. I don't think I bought anything, and my sock club hasn't arrived. No, didn't buy anything. In other news then, regarding the farm, we're busy calving at the moment. So there's lots of baby calves which take a huge amount of time to be trained how to drink from a bucket or drink from a feeding unit, and that's taken up a lot of the boys' time, leaves long milkings because there's extra animals going through, and they also have to be trained to go through the machine. So there's quite a few bruises at the moment because the cows can kick out a little at the beginning. Some be extremely quiet, others be very rebellious, and there's bruises and bumps quite a bit until they settle down. So milkings are really busy and quite long at the moment. I was doing updates on the maize, and at the minute the maize is just, it's all grey and it's browning off. We could do without weather just as it is at the moment. Another week of 10 days of good warmish weather would be nice, but we have to take what we're given. The cobs are there, and they're really well advanced. They'll not be growing much more now. It's just getting them to ripen in. For feed, sometimes I think when you're eating a corn on the cob, you want a nice crisp corn on the cob, and when you bite it you want to feel that juice sort of coming out of it. For feed and feed value, you want your cob to be dry, no sap in it whatsoever. So some of them they're not just at that stage yet, so it's going to take another, hopefully a month, and it'll be ready to be harvested and brought in, and then it needs to stay in the silo under cover for minimal of a month then before you can open it to start to feed again. So that's basically all that's happening on the farm. The days are getting a lot shorter, so there's maybe not just as much happens, but all the same the boys are very busy and will be busy for the next few months, I can imagine. That's why I love crafting. It passes the time when you're in the house alone. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up now. I'm not even going to mention the word COVID because things are not going in the right direction here in Northern Ireland in particular. We've had horrendous numbers, and we're just continually praying that things will settle down. Parts of our country have been put into semi-lockdown. As I say, we're not, the rest of the country isn't allowed to visit, so just hopefully things will improve and we might even get back to being able to visit our children again, which would be nice. So I hope where you are it is improving, and if it's not, I hope that you can keep safe and you can get about life the best as possible. And as always, I will see you again in about a couple of weeks' time. So keep safe and enjoy your crafting until then.